go. So Vermont also using damage control. Now, on a battleship, that's a bigger impact, right? Because you're 30.8 seconds immune versus, if I were to pick the standard other one, 22. So that's 8 seconds of additional DCP immunity, which is very sexy for an American battleship. Less risk of flooding, main guns turn faster, less flooding and fire duration, concealment, and of course you want to be sniping with your Vermont. Spotting aircraft is far better than a catapult fighter. And I don't know if any of these skills, no, they don't matter. So he's running emergency repair specialist, brisk. Wouldn't even made that comment about being that much faster to get into the middle of the map. Adrenaline rush, concealment expert, fire prevention, emergency repair, super heavy. Oh. Wait. Super heavy AP shells increase the time that you're on fire and flood for this? Oh my god.
Yep.
Ouch. That's ouch. Okay.
It's never been a problem.
Okay,
because one of my favorite things about the Vermont is that you have an actually really good concealment for a battleship and a very heavy armament, so people tend to not want to get close. And when you are finally close, you're going to be taking it anyway. And then you have that extended duration on the DCP to help you, let's say, mitigate some of it for a bit more, even though it still has the same cooldown. And when you've shot, you have 20 seconds to go dark. And when the moment you go dark, that brisk speed boost puffs in, and you can actually sometimes see yourself dodging because of it.
Okay, makes perfect sense. Especially, I mean, if you really wanted to, let's say, go. Can you not? You can't run propulsion. But that's right, because the standard battleships have built-in propulsion. That's right. And that's why that happens. You were talking about going dark there as soon as brisk kicks in.
Yep.
Signals, anti-det, ramming, fire reduction, flood reduction, healing booster, speed booster, 5% onto 21 knots, lol. Secondaries and consumables. Yeah, I mean, what else are you going to run with this? Makes sense. Alright, well, let's try this again, this time without a restart being called. So once again, what was you guys' thinking early on for initial deployment? And then if you don't mind, talk me through the enemy's lineup and what you thought of the enemy's lineup and how to react to that.
You want to take this one, Thomas? I can talk about the enemy after.
Yeah, I can try. In the start here, we're giving up B. In the start, we want a position on 1 line, 3 line, some 6-7, and 9-10 line. That's our goal here. And we're putting a Des Moines into the islands on 6-7 line to put a Des Moines there. And we want to fight hard for A, actually.
Okay.
I don't remember how this. If we win or lose, I don't remember.
This is a win.
Yeah, this is a win.
Okay.
We want to have some the battleship and Des Moines behind the islands on 3 line, and we have. I'm going to be smoking up the Salem on 1 line, because then we can shoot behind the islands, be on D, and Salem can do that from smoke, and we have radar for A with the Des Moines there. So that's a plan we had on A, to fight your cursor where you're up there. And on C, we are putting the Mino, Napoli, and Gearing out on 10 line. So we can shoot, because on D, we are expecting ships there, D9, 10. So we can torp there, and also the Gearing can smoke up.
Okay.
And if nothing goes for B, we can sneak the Des Moines into B in the mid-game section.
Additionally, he also has a little bit of a duty to radar it and potentially stop the cap, because we don't want to give away a free cap for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. I have a viewer asking, IWAX, is this a Norwegian accent?
Yes, it is.
All right.
All right, so worth mentioning, the Minotaur choice here is a little bit of a budget Brisbane for us. It has its surprise AP damage, which is a lot higher if you get a DD that isn't perfectly angled, of course, compared to the Brisbane. But the Brisbane's 12-kilometer radar, the longer range torps that hit massively hard, is just such a great utility to have. So we would have taken a Brisbane if it wasn't for the ban.
Sure, absolutely. And I've noticed that Brisbane, I've seen a lot of people speccing it for torpedoes instead of, maybe a gun build or more like survivability build. With the idea being you're just going to play it like a large destroyer.
Absolutely. Worth noting is that I think that the best thing you can do is go for the 6-slot reload on the Brisbane so that you can get the guns going as quickly as physically possible without having someone inside of your top-grade gunner range. But then everything else goes into the offensive power of the torpedoes, because you do catch so many people out with those 13.5-kilometer torpedoes that then hit for 19k.
Absolutely. Okay, so what are you guys thinking about the enemy's decisions? Like, how do you read their setup and what you think they're going to do? I mean, we've already kind of gotten into first contact here, but...
So to begin with, we noticed the glaring thing is that they have 4 DDs, but we also noticed that all 4 DDs, except for the Marsailles, are not necessarily the kind that will take out your DD, except for a lucky torpedo. But at the same time, if you only run the Marsailles, you kind of need someone else to support it in order to actually secure a kill. So we're not really scared about the Marsailles, but we do know that we have to be a little bit careful with our DDs. But this map is, like we said, we're playing not to push anyone away from the caps, we're just pushing ships close so that we can hold them, and we hope for them to make mistakes as they try to retake the caps. That's a very patient strategy to go for.
Yeah, it is. Okay.
And second of all, you can see that they're running 2 Des Moines, and we're probably going to see them getting smoked up, and we did. And they're running a Marseille. I would have actually initially expected a Marseille to run to the 10 line. You will see in a second that he does. Because there he has a bit more open range to do a little bit of speed juking and getting some crossfires in.
So yeah, I mean, Marseille, typically you either put on the border of the map because it can protect one of its sides that way, or you put it up against an island. But like you said, you want the flexibility of being able to speed juke and stuff. So, okay.
Exactly. And if you play it just right within the right range of your radar, then it's never going to get spotted and farmed down, or even crossfired to death. Because if someone is pushing in to get him spotted, you radar and then you grab the DD. And if you grab one of our DDs in this case, of course, we only have 2 of them. We're very reliant on them, so we expect to keep them alive.
Okay. There's our first salvo coming out, actually second salvo from the Vermont. We haven't really been commenting on that, but he's doing what you'd expect a battleship to do in this position. Support, shoot whatever is detected. Maybe you get a lucky salvo, does something while it's going on.
In fact, you could look at that Shimakaze, that was 1 salvo.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And BCAP, you mean?
9K.
Well, and that's a very strong position. Go ahead.
Sorry, I said that he did eventually get it, but at least we traded some HP for it. Now, the problem here is that they currently hold a cap that we can't just instantly grab because we haven't yet seen all of their ships. We don't know what they might potentially have parked south of B. As you saw in the initial deployment, they smoked up right north of the B cap, which means that it might indicate that there's something else to help hold the B cap. So we're just holding right now, waiting for gathering information. And you see we spot the Ohio here. We know that there's nothing that will overmatch the Des Moines if he does go for B. So very soon we give him a call to go and grab the B cap.
All right, I've slowed this down a ton for right now because I feel like we're 6 minutes into the game. Mamba is detected now in this gearing. He's encountering the enemy gearing at C-cap. Mr. Powerproof, who followed a minute ago, thank you, Powerproof, the follow, is currently detected. People are shooting at him. Not looking good over there. At B-cap, like you said, we haven't seen much. Now, you said we're just waiting and gathering intelligence. We're 6 minutes in. You have 0 caps. They have 2 caps. They are ticking points. You are not. So, are you okay with this at this point?
So basically what you have to realize is that everything both the caps, the points, and the ships can change at any given moment, because each ship is a bag of points, you could say. So the moment that we do grab one of them as a kill, we instantly offset like maybe several minutes of them holding a cap, and we'd much rather get that, because then we have a much more comfortable position to sit on the caps with, because they no longer have that extra power to take it back.
So generally speaking, a kill is a 100-point swing. So right now, 6 minutes later into the game, you don't have any caps, but if you get a kill right now, that pretty much offsets the earlier time that they've had 2 caps and you've had none.
Okay. Exactly.
So your feeling is we're gonna work on catching somebody and getting that kill. Who on their team is low? They're Shimikaze, but we haven't seen him in a while. Maybe one of their Des Moines, the one that's over at A, is quite low and spotted right now. So if your Kremlin's able to take him down, okay. Marsailles has found his way into the Thunderdome, which honestly is probably okay for you guys, because there's really one way in and one way out, so you don't have to worry about him, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And there's a ship from our side on either end, so we know that he will leave then.
His only real escape route is to go through the middle on the 4 line. Your Vermont is continuing to push up, which is fine. Mr. Powerpoof, though, is in trouble. He's continuing to take damage. He's at just under 5,000 hit points. So take me through the calls that are going on right about now. What's the atmosphere like in your voice chats? What are you guys talking through?
So obviously, when you're in a situation like this, there's a ship that is nearly going down, but it's not gone down yet, guaranteed. Everything in the comms goes quiet except for the people who are working to try and keep him alive. So you're looking for ways to distract, like maybe someone guns who's currently being dark, so that you give them an alternate target to shoot at.
Okay.
Especially someone like the Ohio, for example, could kill secure a Minotaur, but maybe they'd rather kill the gearing if the gearing got spotted. So we're evaluating all of the options that we have. If I make the Marseille have to dodge, like with this shot coming in now, he might lose a bit of focus on how he's aiming to just catch an eye at where the shells are coming from. It's all these little things, and of course it's also what we would call a brown moment. So in this very moment, you could expect that the Minotaur is not very comfortable. So I think every player in the game will sometimes voice their opinion of what's going on, especially if they're dying or doing something well. So that definitely slips in as well.
Okay. Yeah. So there's 2 things I want to comment on, and for those of you guys who are just viewers of KOTS, I play competitive, so I completely understand what you're talking about there. Many of you viewing have probably played clan battles. 2 things I want to hone in on. One, you said everybody drops in comms, like they just stop talking as soon as Powerproof says I'm in trouble. Is that a condition thing? Like, is that something that you guys have like taught everybody? Like, you have to stop talking at that point?
I think you could say that everyone has to get better every time they play the game, right? So like it's a learning experience always. No one is perfect, and you can always get better, right? But it's definitely something that we talk about expecting from one another. Because if you don't have clear comms, you will lose out on important intel, like a broadside cruiser or someone who's needing support, someone who's getting farmed. It's also very important to call early so that you don't get them to trigger their DCP and then get 2 permafires, and then you start helping them. So you definitely have to work on as a team if you want to do well, what things need to be said and what things don't.
Okay, perfect. I love that. And that's now you guys said that MUNCH is a relatively new clan, correct?
Fairly new, yeah. We've been playing as the group we are now with a few swaps, you could say, since I believe it's October, November.
I think so.
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I gotta say. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say that we did in fact participate in the last KOTS, because the full-time KOTS tournament, the smaller one, did take place right around when we actually made MUNCH, which is a funny little story that we don't have to get into. But right at that moment, we happened to be signed up to KOTS with a lot of the players that we moved from the previous clan with, and we just kind of had to just throw ourselves into it, and we actually made it surprisingly far then as well.
So, I mean, most of the players in Munch are seasoned players. Even if you guys haven't played on teams together, you kind of know what's up, right?
Exactly.
Perfect.
We
Okay.
we also have a very good mix of players. Some are pretty new, and some have played for some years. So
Got it.
I'm kind of the new kid on the block for our group, or like with the least amount of battles. And I also have not been part of Munch for quite a long time. But to get back to the situation that you are seeing here, me and Napoli, I'm there to also watch the Mino. Like, we are now kind of far forward. They kind of rushed ahead to put a lot of pressure on C-cap and eventually allow the gearing to cap the C-cap because now because of the radar Mino, it almost stays on for like a minute.
Yep.
The gearing will be pushed away so far that we don't have to worry about losing damage on our HP on our gearing.
Love it.
Meanwhile, the Vermont and I are slowly pushing up. I'm just like reversing to get angles and trying to continuously shoot. So I'm the one that's being spotted, so that they or let me shoot for free, or hold their because they hold their fire for the Mino, or they shoot me, and the Mino can do his thing without being worried that he will be blind fired.
So that was the second aspect that I was talking about, right? Which is, you guys said we need a distraction. So Colo, you are the distraction. I'm surprised you didn't ask for Mamba to open up as well. Why have the gearing stay quiet?
Because we want to conserve our destroyer's HP for the later part of the game, when we might lose a cruiser or something, that we have still like a full HP destroyer to contest and fight.
You also have to think about one more thing with destroyers, right? Because like a dead destroyer or nearly dead destroyer, you can't YOLO anything with it. But sometimes it comes to a point where you just have to do something or not. And having a full HP destroyer at that point allows you to do a lot of different things. And you'll actually see the red team here trying to do that later.
And that's something I think we've cast before. And you so eloquently put it earlier, not dying is important in KOTS, but saving your hit points for later so that you can then use those hit points and trade them for maybe rushing a battleship and taking it down at a pivotal moment makes perfect sense. So you don't want Mamba to shoot. He just did, but okay.
Yeah.
But Colo opens up. You want Colo to be shot at in the Napoli. It's a very tanky ship.
Yes.
Get the people to stop blind firing Mr. Powerpoof in the Minotaur, who, by the way, he did heal. So he's back up on hit points a little bit now, but he's also dark, so he's safe. He is still shooting from that smoke. We've been talking a lot. Even though I've slowed this down to as slow as it can get, a lot's happened even in just these few moments as we've been talking about it. But this is one of those pivotal moments in this game. I can already tell you guys that because I can see how things are coming down. It really comes down to your Vermont. What can he hit? What can the Ohio hit? And what's the gearing on both teams going to do, especially now that Mamba was detected even just momentarily. Okay.
I also think we have called out that our Des Moines should grab B, so he's on their way to get the middle cap, because he was not spotted for a long time, so he's getting in to get the middle cap as well.
Well, and so from your Des Moines perspective, my cat wants on my lap. Give me 1 second. Sorry, guys. Okay, come on, buddy. So, from the Des Moines perspective, who can shoot him right now? Kremlin is so deep at A. There's no shot on the Des Moines. So the Des Moines can just basically walk into B. If he's detected, he can pop his fancy schmancy radar, maybe see the Shimakaze, which is no longer the lowest health because it looks like the gearing is taking hits from Mr. Powerproof, but he's quite low anyways. The only concern really is the Ohio. And if the Ohio shoots, chances are he'll be detected, and I'm sure you guys are going to call out, hey, Ohio just fired, right? and where?
It depends a little bit, because if you can see the shot is heading for a battleship, it doesn't matter. If you can see it's heading as a blind fire towards the smoke, there might not even be like a alert going off from having like or what's it called,
Incoming fire.
Fire alert. Exactly, incoming fire alert. And then he might not notice it because he's currently tunnel visioning on what kind of jukes the gearing is doing. Because as you're firing at a gearing with this long of a shell travel time, you're often going to have to learn what this specific player likes to do to dodge you, so that you can increase the hit ratio as he increases his distance.
Makes perfect sense. So Des Moines is now detected. He is capping B. Gearing is in trouble. Enemy gearing for that matter. Okay. I think we're about ready to start going forward. We just paused it there. I feel like we talked for 5 minutes about something that literally happens in 2 seconds in KOTS. And I wanted to... Part of the reason I love doing these replays, and thank you all again for sending these replays and joining into the voice channel, it helps viewers understand all the craziness that's happening in literally seconds, that we aren't privy to. So JCD in the gearing is going to die. He's detected. Vermont shooting at him. Napoli shooting at him. Where is he?
I do believe he gets away scot-free here.
Yeah,
well,
looks like he does.
Well, the thing is, he's now so low, he cannot really risk getting close to the radar mino, and that's kind of also playing in our gameplay, because now they have the gearing can only really torp and smoke and maybe spot, but if you surface spot the mino, you will be radared. So, and then you will be like, by the time you are out of his radar, you probably will not survive that.
Now you got torpedoes coming in on the Ohio from Mamba's gearing. The torpedo hits something. That's got to be the Marseilles, and still can't hit the Ohio. Even if it doesn't hit the Ohio, it takes the Ohio out of the game. He's got to focus on dodging torpedoes instead of shooting something.
Yeah,
indeed.
And here we also, if you see almost, you don't see all the enemies here on C. They are almost in one square. And we have Vermont on 7 line, and we have Napoli on 10 line.
Wait a second.
So we know that both the Des Moines and the Marseilles are both ate a torp, and because of because of Mamba, we knew that they used their DCP as well. So that makes it also quite interesting in setting a fire, especially on the Marseilles.
Sure.
It's bow in, so it cannot really disengage. And this is really the moment that we crossfire the Des Moines. I think it is the next volley of the Vermont in combination with the Napoli that clears that Des Moines up at sea.
So here's, again, where that communication is so important, being able to say, somebody took a torp, they flooded, they DCP'd, they were spotted momentarily, you tried to get them lit on fire again, and Powerproof now backing off of the sea cap. He's quite low. You obviously want him to heal up a second time. Polo, why are you not advancing in the Napoli right now?
Yeah, I see my Mino and the gearing splitting up and not being together, and me pushing in right now into those 4 ships will be kind of suicidal. So I kind of just holding back for it at the moment and let the Mino and gearing torps do its thing. I have my own torps on the way, and at this moment I'm kind of positioning myself towards like the blue line.
Yep, I see that. And by the way, so the reason I asked you that question, because we've captured a lot of games where people default don't know what to do, so they advance or they push. And this is an example of why you don't want to push. Kahlo, you said it great. I don't want to take a 1v4. I wouldn't either.
Especially like the majority of their ships are quite healthy. And I know Napoli is very tough, but it's not that tough.
Now, a crucial kill just occurred on the enemy team there. Your gearing torpedoed Black Sea's Shimakaze. He goes down there while trying to lay a smoke for his team to advance. That's huge because that takes away some of the vision over at A. You guys said that your beef was going to A. You were trying to win A. You guys have been kind of stalled there for a long time. At this point is a time to push at A.
Slowly, but surely. Because now they have one less, you said it yourself, they were trying to lay down a smoke screen with the shimmer, and now that they can't properly do that, they have lost the ability to maintain control at A. They have to now fall further back with the Des Moines, rely on the gearing smoke, just like we had to fall back with gearing and Minotaur, which allows us to eventually, when we wait out their smokes, get up closer with the Kremlin and put pressure on him. And then he comes under one of those situations where he has to make a choice. And when you force players to make choices enough times, they're eventually going to make a mistake.
Ah, okay. So you're hoping the Kremlin's going to make a mistake. We'll see what happens. He's in a very strong position right now, at the very least.
I was the one who torped the Shima. That was a lucky torp. I have to have to be honest about that.
But hey, you know what?
Here,
yeah, I see you. Okay.
Yeah. But here I also know, I see that Des Moines is running away, so I see nothing can radar me now. So I'm turning into to get a cap from behind the island there.
So there was a ping that just showed up on the mini map, and that was at looked like Echo 1-2 area. So are you trying to say that you're going to go around that island?
There I'm pinging my RPF.
Okay.
For that useful information for Salem and for the Des Moines, so don't know where the DD is, so they can relax or not relax for the torpedoes.
Sure, I love it. It makes perfect sense. So at that point, Fateng, you said you were. Are you going to go into A at this point, or are you going to try
down at this point? By the way,
go around it?
Yeah, the Des Moines
over on
C. He will die quite soon.
Be more nice.
I'll try.
Okay. So it looks like Flatung, you're going to go up to the cap and you're going to back into it, obviously, so you have the ability to run away. Enemy gearing now spotted at A on your Des Moines radar, I'm guessing.
No, we spotted each other actually. So here I had a little brown pants alert because I wasn't expecting him to be there. But luckily I had our Des Moines there, so he gave me good support, and so we scared him away. And now we see the Des Moines on the enemy side got poofed.
Yep, and on top of that, the Marseille takes a torpedo as well from Mamba's gearing. Or no, was that Colo? Was that your Napoli?
Yes, that was my Napoli.
Yeah.
I hit the torp on the Marseille and took the remaining HP of the Des Moines there after the Vermont hit him pretty hard.
I saw. Okay. And again, this is so in King of the Sea, damage doesn't really matter. Kills matter. So who cares that at this point your Vermont player only has 63,000 damage 10 minutes into the game? Doesn't matter. What matters is you're up 2 ships over their 0. So we talked before. They had 2 cap points. You guys weren't afraid of that. You gained 2 ships. Look, you are now in the lead. Your Des Moines walked into B cap, took the cap, pretty much for free.
Yeah, here you also see Raleigh is pushing up 7 line with his Vermont. He's on 7 line, and Colo is still doing a great job on 10 line. So we have here very good crossfires on the enemy ships.
Yeah, especially
another
that.
Thing
Go ahead.
Sorry, another thing you will notice I was going to say is that they have decided to try to farm down my Vermont. I allowed them to do so because trying to farm down a Vermont is obviously going to take longer than any other ship on the sea cap. So if you let them get a little bit of a head start on your HP, it might seem a little bit more feasible. You can see that I'm only about to get my second heal used back, and it will start healing quite a bit if I use it as well. So I've baited them into wanting to try and take me on, while also having an island right next to me that I can just go slightly forward and be safe behind.
Wait, can we back up for a sec? So all right, so you've been we haven't talked about you. You've been focused for a bit. Did you purposely wait to use your first heal, or did you just use your first heal and now you're waiting to use your second heal?
I have used one heal, and as you can see, I'm below half HP at this point.
Right.
Why that is significant is because, first of all, you have adrenaline rush you really always should have on a battleship. So it reduces your reload. It allows you to maybe catch someone like those 2 seconds earlier, especially with a 40-second reload, and maybe kill someone. And additionally, it also creates more interest in doing more damage to the ship, because like we talked about, you want to take ships out. And right now, I'm actually the only ship that is providing a crossfire with Marseille, Ohio, and well, Marseille and Ohio. And if they take me out, there's only ever going to be coming shells from the same direction unless we rotate the Des Moines.
Gotcha.
Well, at this very moment, you found the gearing.
Yeah.
And I found the gearing indeed.
You found the
so
gearing.
I make a little choice here consciously about going behind the island and going dark.
To get out of, I mean, that's one torpedo spread. You don't know where the gearing's second torpedo spread is. You are using your DCP, which we have talked about at the start of this replay, is enhanced. So you have 30 odd seconds, 31 seconds of DCP. So you're just going to take your battleship and walk away.
Exactly. And you notice here as well that I'm dark because I'm now on 9 seconds left to reload, which means that they are currently just trying to blind fire me. The last few shells are coming in from the Marsailles that he fired two hours ago. And the gearing is just currently trying to guess. But I see an opportunity here, so I will actually fire my guns because I realize that I will be safe.
Okay. And yeah, I see the gearing torpedoes coming into play. And you've got Brisk that just activated. And that's going to allow you to scoot yourself out of the second rack of torpedoes. If you stayed where you were, pretty good chance you would have taken that second torpedo. It would not have been a flood, but it would have been more damage that's harder to repair.
And even worse, I would be in a bad situation because I would no longer be able to choose to go dark because I am now in front of a gearing.
Right, and there's less maneuverability available to you. Okay.
Exactly.
Makes perfect sense. So this is like, as you're advancing as a battleship player, you need to be thinking about what's my escape route. You already knew what your escape route was. You needed to use that escape route, so you took it.
Exactly.
Love it. In the meantime, you slapped the Ohio with the Citadel. You're continuing to shoot. I'm guessing you're shooting the Marseille here because the Marseille is quite low. There's probably a call out to focus him down.
Yes, there is.
But at the same time, we're also calling out to focus the gearing, because getting him down at this point is actually more significant.
How did he get detected? Did he shoot with his guns?
No, radar because of the Des Moines in the B-cap.
Ah, okay. So Andy radared, catching the gearing out. You get the kill on the Marseille. Brilliant shot. And now, of course, all guns on the gearing. The Ohio, with its quick reload heal, isn't so important right away. You take away all of his support, and then you take him down, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, then we could potentially take him down without taking a single point of damage through clever positioning and smokes.
Yep, absolutely. So there's the gearing getting shot at. Mind you, at A, your Des Moines has decided to go straight through A and is now looking straight at Wargaming Please Buff Kleber in his Marceau. Yeah. So you snuck him in before the Kremlin could do anything about it. I love it.
Yeah.
So that's once again the idea of like forcing players to make decisions. You're not only forcing them to make a decision, but you're giving them two alternatives. And if he chooses to back up his Kremlin around the island to be more alive, then he's also purposely choosing to have less angles on the ships out at A. So that allows us to push the Des Moines in and now have the Marceau in a double Des Moines crossfire.
And let's be real, that's the standard Kremlin decision, to back up. So unless he's purposely told, you need to stay in front here. Oh, he just got slapped. If you're going to stay in front here and just take it like a man, he's going to back up. So that's his default decision. And I Used to Be Good takes that opportunity to go right into the cap. I love this. And like you said, there's two Des Moines, one on either side of him. He's dead. He just doesn't... He probably knows he's dead at this point.
Indeed. Now the Kremlin tries to do something, so you see that Des Moines is already angling in towards that Kremlin.
Oh,
which allows him to usually bounce, but this was a little bit too late. But now he can't shoot again, and the Des Moines will get behind the island.
yes. Now,
Yeah,
also,
the Kremlin is out in the open, so you will be shut down by the remaining of the team that's on A.
well, I'm sure
Well, that is a
flat. Yeah, flat. There's your torpedoes. I had a feeling your torpedoes are ready to go.
Oh yeah, they were.
Yeah.
And also here I'm torping way ahead of the indicator actually, because I saw
Figuring
him
he's gonna
pushing in.
turn.
Yeah, he's gonna turn and he's gonna speed up. So
Mhm.
this first set here is way before the indicator.
Mhm.
But I also see the enemy Des Moines is coming behind, so I do drop the second set here as well. Then no, actually they won't hit as good because yeah, I'm expecting the Kremlin to there the I went.
Wow.
Shouldn't show
The
broadside
Kremlin.
to Vermont.
No.
I think a lot of people discount the Vermont in competitive, but you get her into the right position and she can do a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you figured the
Well-
Kremlin was going to go forward. Even if you miss your torps, you're probably going to hit the Des Moines anyways.
And here also the Kremlin has to do something about the Des Moines. He can't give up the focus on Des Moines.
Mhm.
So I think Des Moines will go down here. But Kremlin also is dead here.
Yeah, and their Des Moines is also following, and he has nowhere to go now.
No.
Right.
Is one of those situations where you can't just push one ship in because you're minimizing the chance that your play is essentially going to do nothing. So you have to go all in or not go at all. But here you see the Kremlin goes down. That's very unfortunate for them because now they have a Des Moines in a very unfavorable position.
Speaking of unfavorable, Andy just took a big salvo from the Kremlin and 2 torpedoes. He's quite low, but you guys kind of don't care because at this point the game's pretty much decided, right? There's 2 ships against 8.
Here the game is over.
Yeah.
Because the guys on sea did a wonderful job. They fought 4 ships, and all of our 4 ships survived.
Mm-hmm.
So here is just.
And second of all, it opens everyone up to be able to crossfire. You actually see my salvo here coming in a second on the Des Moines. It's obviously a little bit optimistic. Everyone at sea at this point could have gone AFK and we would have still won it just as easily. But in a more pressed situation, they would be pressed by the fact that we now have all of these ships pushing in from the other side.
Yeah, so here's an example where, and Raptor and I talked about this last weekend, especially on a map like this, that third destroyer gives you the flexibility of grabbing the B cap early, especially if it's a 2 destroyer comp like what you guys brought. But you were able to encourage them to make mistakes, and then you punish those mistakes to the point where you basically made up for that destroyer disparity.
Indeed. And quite typically on the very island heavy maps, pushing is unfortunately not very fun for the pushing side because there are just so many traps that you can fall behind.
Yeah, sure. So a map like this, you're thinking, all right, let's draw them up. Let's get them to come to us. How can we do that? A big part of that was you and the Vermont, right, Raul?
Indeed, like letting yourself go a little bit down on health in a BB is effectively a reload boost in addition to being bait.
You made very good bait out of yourself there. There's your first salvo hit in the Shimik. Oh, almost 10k on that Shimikaze. He got the cap, but he paid for that.
That's not the highest damage number we have seen from a single volley per month.
I'm sure it isn't.
The rally got, was it day 1? An 82k volley on an Ohio?
Yeah, it was, I think, day 2.
82k volley.
I was surprised myself. When you see those numbers, you kind of stop for a second and go, what?
That's what you want to see as a Battleship player. So here's where I paused it before. Minotaur obviously quite low. You're down on caps. Now, from the enemy's perspective, they kind of have this, right? It's their game to lose. They got 2 caps. Minotaur quite low. You're going to try to kill it. And they're going to fail.
Yeah, because they are all sitting also behind the same smoke, and all our ships almost have long-range torpedoes. So we are lucky to here and there hit a torpedo, and that really screws them over. You also see that the Des Moines is really in a position of kiting, and their Marseille is in a position of pushing, the same as the Ohio. So there's already a miscommunication or misposition on their part.
It's
Oh,
also worth noting that losing that much HP on a ship like we did on that Minotaur there, it's nothing, you can't call it anything else but a mistake. A mistake did happen, but when a mistake happens, it's also extremely important to be able to focus and not succumb to the mistake and let that be a mind game on you.
In other words, you don't say, well, this game's over. I'm dead. Whatever. No.
You try until you have 0 HP. Even if you have 1 HP, that's just AR.
Right? That's all you need. So, and I love that too, because so easily players get into that mindset, especially like in random battles, right? Well, this game's over, to heck with this, or ranked even. You don't do that. How can I work with my team? How can I make this, how can I turn this game around? How can I survive? Those are the kinds of questions that you need to be thinking about.
Yeah,
indeed.
And like the comms, when a battle starts, the comms just continue. It's like continuous information. There's rarely a moment of pure silence that nothing is happening.
Mm-hmm.
You could take another good example, for example, with a Kleber, which has 7.8 kilometer detection against a Shimekase, for example. But let's say that a Shimekase is sat on an island, lobbing over it at someone who is going to go down if you don't stop him. But that Kleber is 1 HP and will lose that gunfight to the full HP Shimmer. But if you place that Kleber inside the Shimmer's gun range, but outside of his own detection, even if he has 1 HP, he's still useful. So you can always make sure of ships as long as they are alive, in addition to the points you lose if you lose the ship.
One of my favorite things to do is sneak up on like a Kutuzov or Smolensk and smoke, and just let them get themselves spotted. I haven't done anything but got themselves killed.
Exactly. That's when they go, hold on a minute.
Yeah.
Why am I spotted?
Right?
Smoke's still there.
I do love what you said, though. We're going to see it again in the replay here in the render. The Marseille and the Des Moines in opposite position. Marseille bow in, Des Moines bow out. It does kind of telegraph some things to you guys. And you pick up on that. Now, in Marseille, its guns are forward. So have you guys seen a lot of Marseilles that are like in a kiting away positioning?
It can be done.
Myself.
Indeed. But like, whereas typically you would have a ship, you've probably heard about the example of like if you're chasing someone who's kiting, you don't want to be, you want to cross his stern. You don't want to go along with his direction with your ship, because that forces some angles in the chase that allow them to much easier get their guns off and be safe. You want to deny them that. And that's something that's very difficult to do in a Marseille. So on the other hand, in a Marseille, what you would typically go for is a speed boost and then juking a little bit with your speed and turning a little bit in and out and stuff to make the shells land along the side armor of the ship rather than hitting you where you're actually weak and can get overmatched, especially in a large caliber fight with a battleship, for example. So what you'll typically do in a Marseille, which you might try to avoid in other ships with more armor and less speed, is keep your guns on the same side and don't just turn slightly in and out all the time, every time an enemy salvo comes in and every time you want to shoot your guns as you're kiting away. So I would say
there.
Indeed, there. But the most noteworthy mistake, I would say, of the team playing here on sea is that they put the battleship and the Marseille and the Des Moines into the same square, as Thomas pointed out. And if they do spot someone, all they can do is shoot at the face of the ship, unless that ship just decides to go broadside for some reason.
Yeah, and they're all behind the same smoke, so you get around 20 torps every 2 minutes towards you. You cannot dodge them all.
No, and that is absolutely, I agree with you guys, a mistake in positioning because generally, you want to keep about a grid square between you and somebody else that allows you to have more spotting. Obviously, it opens up broadside angles as well.
That's true, but even if some ships will be able to have at your broadside if you're spread out, the problem is that if you then choose to make a conscious decision to push up in such a way that you have broadsides on one of them, if they're in the same square, then you have broadsides on all of them.
Yeah.
And then you can just make a choice of who do you want to take down. And obviously, in this situation, the most important to take down would be the gearing. Then they have nothing to hide behind. Then it's the Des Moines. Then they have no radar. And then it's the Marseille. He goes down a bit quicker and can still hurt and is a bit maneuverable, can get away and all of that. He goes down, and then it's the battleship. You can just play with your food at that point.
I don't think they expected you in the Vermont to go up the 7 line like you did.
No, but that is the nice thing about the Vermont. People don't expect it.
So when
it's
you
also got 12.4. Sorry, go on.
So when you get up there, then like you said, you are on their side, and really it's your Napoli and your Minotaur and your gearing just kind of keeping their attention while you just kind of say, "Hey, I can hit you now."
Indeed. And like honestly, I don't know who goes down the fastest. The guys who are showing broadside to me, because sometimes you might still have bad dispersion, or whether you're just sitting there showing broadside to a Minotaur and a Napoli. That's also going to hurt.
Yeah.
So they have to constantly make that choice. Who do I want to kill me?
Well, at this point, you also see that Vermont and Napoli are pushing up. I try to not push too far ahead because I see the Ohio pushing in.
And yeah, that's kind of a threat.
Yeah.
So if that Ohio decided to just full send it, chances are that he would be able to trade his ship for someone else before they went down, especially if he started the push in such a way that by the time he realizes that he's not going to stop, it's too late because our Minotaur might be like bow in or like the Napoli is bow in, and you just don't do that turn in front of the battleship unless he's used his guns, but then they have the Marseille, right? And then you can't do it anyway because even though the battleship has used them, the Marseille could still potentially get lucky enough to finish you completely. So it's about being a little bit awake to notice these salvos when you can do the turnouts and such. But even better, you can just go dark and then you can do it for free.
Sure. Oh, I love it. This was a great replay. Thanks for sharing that. That's awesome.
No problem. Happy to supply.